This is going to be Canvas. This is our Canvas X panel software. It's HMI software for those that don't know. This is the latest and greatest software that CIMON has released. It's Linux based as well, and but it runs on your Windows OS, but it's a Linux platform on the HMI itself. So for Unit 1, we're going to learn how to configure the X panel Ethernet parameters, show you a little bit of aesthetic parameter, light and dark mode, creating a page, graphic library, and the Canvas simulator. So I will be delivering this recording plus the presentation after the meeting has concluded. So if you want to hear something again, you can refer to the recording or you can just ask a question. Not a big deal, but just letting you know this isn't like a one-time thing. And then go ahead, you can leave a comment in the chat too if you don't want to speak. That's not a problem at all. You can be shy if you want. But anyway, so how do we configure the X panel's Ethernet parameters? That is, on the physical X panel, we have a method of closing the runtime. That is the bottom left corner, the bottom right corner, and then the top right corner. So by clicking the left corner, the bottom right corner, and then the top right corner, you will open up a window that allows you to close the runtime. And that is how you get to the Ethernet parameters. So let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about by connecting to an X panel over VNC real quick. Loading the software up right now, so one moment. So this is kind of what the interface looks like when you load it up. I can go to Tools, Connection Setup. I can choose any of these, honestly. I'll choose this one, just to kind of like look at it. Oh, I misspoke. We will not be able to show that with this version. It looks like I'm on a demo version. I apologize for that. But typically what I would show is I would be VNCing into an X panel and then clicking on those corners myself, the bottom left corner, the bottom right corner, then the top right corner, closing out the runtime. So let's not spend too much time on that, but that is how you get to the Ethernet parameters. And once you get to those Ethernet parameters, you'll notice that there's two LAN IPs that you can allocate to the X panel. So that means that our X panels come equipped with two Ethernet ports, and they're gigabit. There's a USB port as well, a USB mini B port that will be treated as an Ethernet interface when it's connected to your computer. That way you don't need any type of third-party software when connecting to the X panel with the software. It'll just say USB. You might have saw that when I popped open the network configuration or the network connection tool there. It said USB instead of an IP address. So we treat the USB as an Ethernet port. So technically, you're going to have three different connections that you can download to the X panel or upload from the X panel. And when you have two Ethernet ports, the beauty in that is you can allocate one to be like for a WAN network. So maybe something talking to the cloud because we offer cloud-based protocols such as MQTT or OPC UA. So you could talk to AWS or Azure, what have you. And then the other Ethernet port can be allocated to your LAN network. So the two Ethernet ports are not like a switch. It's not like your phone, like your office phone or something where you connect your Ethernet cable from the wall into it, and then the second one, the second port of the phone can go into like your computer, and that way you're daisy chaining the internet. It's not like that. Both Ethernet, um, both Ethernet NIC cards are separated from each other, and they can be on different LANs, or you can have one for a WAN or for a LAN. And then now, this is a pretty basic feature, but I do want to show it. You have the capacity to change between light and dark mode, which is pretty nice. So if I go here to File, and then I go to Designer Settings, I can change between light and dark mode like this. Also, when we're going to be, so like, how would I create a new project in Canvas? So if I go to File up here, I can go to New Project like this. So Control Shift N, or you can just create new project right here. It slaps you in the face. Just click on that. You can choose between the different types of X panels that we offer. We offer between 4 and 15 inch. So that'd be 4, 7, 10, 12, and 15 inch. Your 4 and your 7 inch being widescreen, and your 10, 12, and 15 being more like a square-based resolution or screen-wise for dimensions. So I'm going to choose this one right here. So that's the 4 or the 7 inch. 1 second. All right, so that's how I create a new project. As soon as I create the project, you see a blank canvas in front of you, hence the name canvas, right? So at the top left, you'll see project tree. That's where all your pages will reside and your objects and all the other things that you'll configure on your pages. And then tag editor is at the bottom left. That's where you're going to create your tags. Notice that we do have an import tag option. This is very useful for like Allen Bradley or our own PLC software. You can just import a PLC file and it will bring all the tags into the project for you. And then top right, we have some other parameters. So this is going to be like your object configuration window, the top right and the bottom right. You'll see that there's a resource library as well to the right. That is going to be our image library, graphic library. That's what I will refer to as the image library. But this is like your general properties of whatever you've selected at the time. As you can see right now, it's just the project. But if I draw like a square, that changes. So now I just see a basic rectangle pane that is like, this is the general property. So I can change the name of the rectangle if I want. And then that will change over here in the project tree. So I can change the name of any object that I want under the basic parameters pane. In the bottom right, I can change the appearance, I can transform it or allocate certain actions. So for appearance, we have visibility, opacity, all of this stuff is basically tag bindable. So if you see this little tag or this little chain link icon on the right-hand side, that means you can bind a tag to it. And I'll show that later on through the webinar, so no worries about that. Okay. So, and then there are some other parameters that I like to use here. So like the stroke color, stroke type, or a transform. This is how you're going to control the vertical or horizontal movement with the X and the Y, the height and the width, rotation. So yes, we do have 360-degree rotation. So you don't have to export your image to Paint and then rotate it there and then import it back. You can just do that here within the software itself. All images within the software are going to be SVG when you import them. We offer native SVG files for you already. Pretty useful. So if you don't know what an SVG is, basically it's an image file format that retains not the resolution, but the quality of the image is retained, but you can change the resolution of the image, and like there's a formula or like a mathematical equation going on in the background that is calculating the new resolution or the new quality based on the resolution. So it's a new file format that we support. We also support JPEG, PNG, bitmap, all of those GIF files, PDF and whatnot. So let's get back into the presentation. I did cover a lot just now. So that was how to create a new project and kind of like at a glance, where is everything within the software? So again, the top left is going to be the project tree. That'll be where you find your pages and your objects. Bottom left is your tag editor. Bottom right is going to be like a basic properties tab. And then you have your image library to the right, like over here. So I can open this up, drag this in, and that's my image. We have plenty of industrial images for any application that would be you would see fit, right? And then the bottom right, we have more advanced properties, so appearance, transform, and actions. So utilizing the graphic library, now called the resource library, you can type in a filter tag. You can type in some type of tag, and it will show you only objects that relate to that. So like, as you can see here, I type in tanks. We see a bunch of images that are tanks. So spherical, rectangular, any type of application that involves tanks, we probably have that image for you. And at the bottom right, you can transform it, give it some actions, appearance, whatnot. 1 second. So I'll go ahead and just demonstrate that real quick. I did with the boiler, but I'll show you what I'm talking about with tanks. So if I type in tanks, we see all these images show up. See if I can grab that one. If I go like this, It comes in at this size, and then I can just change the resolution like this. I can change the dimensions and the quality is retained. I can also press shift and then I'll keep the aspect ratio the same. And I can flip it if I want, any direction, and also rotate it. So that's pretty much our library. You can import your own images into the library and they will follow the project. So it can either follow the project or it can reside local on your computer. It just depends on how you upload it to Canvas. And then also you can transform it, of course. I'm showing manual transformations by clicking and changing it over here. But you can also allocate tags to these different parameters, which I'll show in a second here. When you see a tag link icon, like this little chain link icon, you can allocate a tag to it to actually control those values within the runtime. So some questions you don't have to answer, but feel free to answer. I'll leave a 5-minute silence before I answer the question myself. So number one, how many IP addresses can we connect to on the Linux X panel? So how many IP addresses did I say we can allocate to the X panel? So I said we could allocate 2. The USB port can't really allocate an IP address to it, but it will treat it as an IP or an Ethernet connection, but that's not what I'm referring to. So this point is just to address that the X panels themselves have 2 Ethernet ports and they are separated. It is not switch behavior. There's separate NIC cards. So you can have 2 different LAN networks. You can have a WAN network and a LAN network. It just depends on your application. Number 2, where can the properties be edited within Canvas? So think about which panes I introduced on the left-hand side or the right-hand side where you could alter the properties. And that would be the bottom right and the top right. So again, this image has a general parameter pane up here at the top right, and then you have the more sophisticated ones here at the bottom right. So appearance, transform, and actions. That is where you can alter the properties of any object inside Canvas. Number 3, didn't really cover this, but I will answer it anyway. Number 3, can the Canvas simulator be interfaced with a PLC or field device? So what this is alluding to is the simulator in the Canvas software, can it connect to IO devices? Is it actually treating your computer as a real runtime rather than just being like an offline simulator? Like, so we're going to call this online simulator. So I'm answering the question for you is that we can actually interface with PLC or field devices from your computer using the Canvas software. So that'll be called online simulator. And then if you don't want to connect to PLCs or field devices from your computer, you can just use the normal simulator, which is over here, like to the left of it. But keep in mind the online simulator only lasts for 30 minutes and then it will turn off. It'll revert back to like it'll just stop working. It'll cease to stop working. So what you can do is you can close it and you can reopen it and that will refresh that 30-minute window. So basically we're preventing people from abusing the online simulator by continuously letting it run on their computer. But we give you enough time to test out your application to make sure that the tags work within your software when you're communicating with a field device or IO device. And I can show that later. I'll show that with the CIMON simulator. Actually, we have PLC software that I will also demonstrate for this. But yeah, so we can connect to field devices and IO or and PLCs from the Canvas software. That's number 3. So before I get to unit 2, are there any questions? All right. So for unit 2, we're going to cover how to create tags. We're going to display those tags, make a switch lamp. We're going to show the data entry feature. So I'm going to show you how to make a keypad attached to an object so you can do data entry. And then I'll show you how to download a project to an X panel itself. So creating a digital analog or a string tag. So where did we find that? That was at the bottom right or bottom left. So over here in the tag editor, we have the create new tag icon right here. Click on that. We can name it whatever we want. So I'm going to call this one dig for digital. And then we see, you see here that we have plenty of data types to choose from. And even so, we have 64-bit data in case you're trying to communicate 64-bit data. So in the past, we've only supported 32-bit. Now we support 64-bit, so that whether that be long float, long word, or long unsigned word. So I'm going to choose Boolean, which is referred to as dig or digital. Press OK. I'm going to create an analog tag. I'm going to call it Anna. And then I'm just gonna make it a integer. So int 16, so 16 bits. So if you ever get confused about which data type you're choosing, you can refer to the number on the right hand side, and that'll tell you the amount of bits that are in that data type. So I'm choosing int 16. I'm gonna press OK. And then last but not least, I'm gonna create a string tag. I'm gonna call it str for string. Go all the way to the bottom for string, and then press OK. So now I have made 3 different tags within my tag editor. Now, we do support copy and paste between tags, between projects, or between Excel spreadsheets. So if I were to make something like this, I could create multiple tags simultaneously. So if I do like demo 1 and I open up Excel spreadsheet right here and I paste that, you can see that it pastes into the spreadsheet for me. And then if I want to, I can auto increment this. Hopefully it doesn't hurt me too bad. I just want to do a couple. So this one did not increment the way I wanted it to. And I think there are a couple other ones that mess up too when you do auto increment. All right, so if I do like a control all copy, and then I go back to the designer, I can go ahead and paste that. It's asking me, do I want to replace the one that I already made, the demo 1? Doesn't matter, I can just skip that. And then you'll see that I get all the other ones right here now. So now I made 5 tags. So you can just think, if you need to make 500 tags, you can use like Excel spreadsheet or Google Docs to kind of like organize your tags. And then when you're ready, you can just copy and paste those over to Canvas as like an expedited way of creating tags. Or if you're dealing with Allen Bradley or our own software, our own PLCs, you can now import the tag file. So you can import the project file from the PLC, and then that will bring over all the tags for you. Okay, so definitely showed you how to create a tag, showed you the different data types that we have here. And there's really no limit to the amount of tags. There's no realized limit to the amount of tags you can create. So if you need at least like 2,000 tags, be my guest, create them, use them. I did just demonstrate this slide right here. This was copying and paste between Excel and the tag editor. And you can also do this between projects too. So if you just all you have to do when you click on a tag is just press Control C or right click copy, and then go into the spreadsheet and then Control V or right click paste. So how do I display these tag values in a text object? So it's as simple as taking a text object from the toolbar, so up here, or the taskbar, or this bar right here. I think it's the toolbar. Yeah. So the toolbar, we're going to create this text object right here. We're going to draw it into the page like this. And then I can take any tag I want. So I'll take Anna, and I can just drag and drop that into the text. And it allocates itself to the text parameter of that object. So that was a drag and drop method of tag allocation to a object. So we would call that quick binding or a smart binding. So I can just take a tag again and just drag and drop it into the object. It's going to allocate itself to the most widely used parameter of that object. So for a text object, it's going to be the text parameter. For a switch lamp, it's going to be the state. So if I run the simulator, we're going to see the value 0 populate on this text object right here because we allocated the tag Anna to its text parameter. Also, if I want to allocate it to maybe the height and the width, which will be 0 when it starts, I can just drag and drop it into those parameters like that. If I want to unbind it, I can also just click on this and unbind. So that's how you do tag allocation to an object. So you can either drag and drop it into the text object or drag and drop it into the field itself. So I could also just as well do this. All right. We close out this. All right. All right. So all right. So how do we create a switch lamp object that is located in the toolbar as well? So if I go here, if I look up here in the toolbar, we see that we have quite a bunch of gadgets to choose from, or widgets, whatever you want to name them. But I'm gonna look at the switch lamp right here, choose that, draw that into existence. There's also a neat little gauge right here. So you can have a round gauge if we want, horizontal gauge, a momentary button if we want a momentary button. There's plenty of widgets to choose from, but I'm gonna cover the switch lamp for right now. So I'm going to drag and drop the dig tag into the lamp, and we'll notice that it allocates itself already to the state right here. Then I'm going to go over to the actions and give it a toggle feature. So actions, I'm choosing on press. So creating a new command. We're going to go down to toggle tag value. I think it's alphabetized. So we're going to click on dig right here, press select, OK. And just like that, within less than 10 seconds, we do have a switch lamp object. Now, if you want to change the images, because this is the default image selection we give you, you can also just go over here to the image for state 0 and change it to whatever you want. You'll see a bunch of images show up right here. You can also choose your own from a file if you want, but I'm going to leave it as the default selection, but we do have the capacity to change the image if you want to. If you want to put text on it, you can as well. There's already text for me, but I'm going to make it more apparent that there's a text there. Something like that. I'll bold it, italicize it, underline it, whatever. Doesn't really matter. You can also rotate this object if you want. So you can rotate any object in Canvas. Pretty neat feature. And then for state 1, we can just put on. Change it to 28 as well. So I'm going to run the simulator and kind of show the behavior of both of these objects that we just created. So the top left one should just be a 0 because that's the initial value of the analog tag. And then this one should be off and on. So if I just click it, it toggles like we assigned it. So I can remove that text because it's redundant. It doesn't really matter, but you could think of the use cases for putting text on there. And then I can also just change the value from the runtime if I want, and then it shows 1, 2, 3. So that is changing the analog value and then also toggling this digital value right here. So we can also, I think, do this, which might be a use case. You can have like maybe one state is Celsius, one state is Fahrenheit, and swapping between them will show the different values. Right now, I've allocated the same tag to both the off and on state, so that doesn't really matter. Let's get rid of, oh, what's going on here? All right. So if we change the value here at 1, 2, 3, we can see the value populates here on the button itself. So that is controlled by a tag value. So like if we wanted to have Celsius on the off state, we could. And if we wanted to have in the on state, we could as well. Okay, so let's get back into the presentation. So I showed you how to configure a switch lamp object, allocate a tag, choose the toggle tag value. Again, that is located in the actions pane at the bottom right. And I assigned it to the on press action. And then data entry will be one of the last parameters I show you how to govern an object with. So if we go ahead and click on the new text object right here, I'm going to go to the on press, new command. We're going to go to new command again, and we're going to look for entry data or change tag value, something of that nature. So there's set tag value. I don't think that's the one that we want. So enter tag value is what we're looking for. So enter tag value up here was in the E section because everything's alphabetized. So this is a recent change. I'm used to it like being at the top right away. I mean, even though it is at the top, but this alphabetized list is like a new addition to the software. So it's a nice little quality of life feature right there. So I just go ahead and create a tag, or I select my tag. So I'm going to select Anna, which is the tag that I allocated to the text parameter. I can give it a header if I want, so we can call it Anna entry, something of that nature, and then the subheader I can do like min and max. So min it can be 0, max can be 65, I think 535, something like that. And then we can change the starting position if we want. So if we want it to show up at 200, 100, we could. So closer to the middle of the screen, something of that nature. And then we can restrict the min and the max to that of the tag. So 65, 535. You can also dynamically change this min and max in runtime. So that's what this icon over here means, that we can bind a tag to these parameters, which allow you to change that within the runtime. So I can press OK here. And when I run this simulator, I will now see a keypad when I click on the number. So you saw me put this as the header and the subheader. So Anna entry, min is 0, max is 65, 535. So if I try to put -1 in here, it will not allow me to put -1 in here. If I try to put, oops, why does it keep closing? Okay. If I try to put like too big of a number, it should throw me an error. So it's not going to allow me to enter this number if I press enter because it's too large. But if I backspace one and then put the appropriate number, it will allow me. So since I had chosen int 16, it's not allowing me to enter a number greater than 32,767. So that is a logical issue on my behalf. So if we change the min and max to -32,000 to 32,000, then we would get the appropriate range and we would restrict the max properly. But if I go ahead and just go to the Anna tag and change it to uint 16, that would resolve everything. So I can go ahead and just save and then play the simulator again. And it should allow me to enter that number. So there we go. And then if I try to increment it by 1, it's not going to, oh, it does not like that. It's not going to allow me to enter that number because it's outside the range. All right. So just your min and your max should be parallel with the values that you choose inside your tag. Don't make the same mistake I did. I mean, it'll be obvious because you'll see a message at the bottom show up saying, hey, this value is not appropriate for that tag. All right. And last but not least, I think one of the last things I'm going to show you guys is how to download a project to an xPanel. So the little connection icon right here, open connection setup, or it's located in the tools over here. So connection setup. And then you can select an xPanel. You can select multiple xPanels if you want. So that means that you can download to multiple xPanels simultaneously. One question you might have is, well, what if they're different sizes? Well, you can have a project auto scale. You choose that within the page, I believe, and then it will just auto scale to any size that you have. So any screen size that you have. So there's an auto scale feature right here. So if I check that, if I download to a 15-inch or a 4-inch, it will just compress it or expand it to the appropriate size. The aspect ratios might be a little different because 4-inch and 7-inch are widescreen. So you're creating a project for a widescreen HMI, but like I think 10, 15, and 12 would be appropriate to swap between, and 4 and 7 should be appropriate to swap between. Just be careful about what you're downloading to. Anyway, so it's very easy to download to an xPanel. You just choose the xPanel in your registry right here, and you just click on download to the xPanel. So download PC to HMI, or you can upload that way as well. So I'm not going to do that right now because there would be no point. I can't show you the results, but this is the behavior you should expect when you're opening up the connection setup. You should see a list of X panels that automatically connect to your connection setup. I didn't have to add these automatically. If it doesn't show up, you can try refreshing it, or you can add it in manually. But it should identify it pretty quickly. And then you can just select on this and then download to it if you want. All right, so some questions. Is a local Ethernet connection required to connect with the X panel? Why? So I'll give 5 seconds. So a local Ethernet connection is not required for the Linux X panel. So if you recall, I mentioned that there is a USB mini B port that you can connect to with your X panel to your PC. I did say it would treat it as an Ethernet connection, but it's not required to be going through an Ethernet port. You can just use a normal Ethernet, or you can use a normal USB port on your computer to connect to your X panel through the USB mini B port. Also, you can download and upload projects to the HMI over a USB or an SD card if you want. Number two, what are the most commonly used objects in an HMI project? I want you to name at least two. So I'll give 5 seconds for that. So some of the most commonly used objects in the HMI project would be a text object, so because you're displaying values from a tag that you're getting from a PLC, or a switch lamp object where you're either displaying the state of an object or you're controlling a bit on the PLC, like you're toggling something on and off, or you're using a momentary to turn something on and leave it off by releasing it. Number three, what types of data type or what data types does Canvas support? I want to name at least 5. So we support string, we support float, Boolean, integer, unsigned integer, 64-bit data, 32-bit data, 16, 8-bit data. We support basically any type of data type that you're looking for. So I named more than 5 there, but the ones, you know, the take-home notes here are going to be float, string, Boolean, 64-bit data, and then we also have unsigned. That's the whole point of that question, is to paint that we basically have every data type that you're looking for. So it looks like we do have a question. Is there a list of CIMON distributors available to purchase a panel and PLC starting kit? Yes, there is a list of our distributors online on CIMON.com. But you're more than welcome to send an email to support@cimoninc.com, and we can get you in touch with a distributor that is local to your area. So thank you for that question. And that is pretty much it for today. We're ending a little early, 24 minutes early, but I'll leave the rest of the time remaining open for questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. In the meantime, I'm going to be opening up the CIMON software and demonstrating to you that you can have the online simulator connect to a physical I/O device. But I'm going to be treating the CIMON simulator, a PLC software, as like the physical device. For those that don't know, our PLC software is called CIMON, so it looks like this. So I'm just going to create a basic project. This. So I'm just going to leave this running. I'm going to go online connect option, simulator, okay. Online link downloaded monitor. So I'm just going to get the online or the simulator running for the PLC software. And this is going to be a UDP connection. If you're trying to replicate what I am doing and you can't, refer to the video, 1, and 2, the mistake you might be making is you forgot to change it to a UDP type connection. By default, when you make a CIMON protocol IO device, it's going to be TCP. So let's jump back into the software. I'm going to go to IO devices right here. We're going to go to open IO device editor. We're going to add a new device. We're going to choose CIMON PLC, Ethernet. I'm going to press OK. Now the IP address, since it's on my own computer, I'm going to choose this one. For those that don't know, 127.0.0.1 is a home IP address for you. It is located on every single PC. If you ping it, it will resolve. You'll get a ping back from it because it's your own PC. And you'll see that automatically we assign TCP to the Ethernet type. We're going to change that to UDP and then press OK. So I'm going to go over to Anna, and then I'm going to change the IO device to new device. And then I'm going to allocate D00 there because that's the device I want to demonstrate from the CIMON simulator. And then this I'm going to be controlling M00 with. So dig, I'm going to change that to M00. So new device, M00, press OK. And then I'm going to draw another switch lamp object that is going to show the state of Y10. So I'm going to create another dig tag, or I have one, demo one. So I'm going to click on demo one, new device, call it Y10, press OK, and then I'm going to allocate that over here to this button right here. So when I press this button, it should turn this on. Yeah. So this is M10, and then this is going to be, or this is M00, this is going to be Y10, and then this is also Anna. So let's do the online simulator and make sure everything works properly. So as we can see, the number is incrementing by 1. Why is that? Well, that's because I attached a 1-second timer to it. So every 1 second, it's increasing D0 by 1. And we can see that the number is replicated over here. So technically, I'm having my HMI online simulator connect to my CIMON simulator for proof of concept. And then if I press on this button right here, notice that it turns on Y10 as well. So they both turn on simultaneously because one is controlling the other. And I can't turn on this one because it's a state. If I turn it on from the PLC software, I get the same result. So that's everything I really wanted to demonstrate today. That was the basics of Canvas. There is another webinar going on this Thursday and then 2 more next week. So I look forward to seeing you all there. I'll leave the rest of the time open for questions. Feel free to ask and feel free to leave if you want. You're not obligated to stay if you don't want to stay.